Hello folks, welcome back. Chris in Central Pennsylvania. This is a story about an update about the refugee situation here in America for South Africans. There's a lot of bitter Bettys, a lot of angst, a lot of anger about President Trump's program, and people use that to influence how they comment on things on social media, and also by the media who lack objectivity. We've seen the hit job done by CNN, their misinformation, white genocide, bogus documentary. We've seen the coverage from Newsroom Africa, from the Daily Maverick, from News 24, and a host of other media outlets in South Africa, as well as American outlets, that misrepresent this. We've seen politicians lie about it. The foreign minister lying on CNN, claiming that this is a white supremacy program because it's only for white Afrikaners. That's never been the case from the outset, and one simply has to tell the truth or not be lazy and read the U.S. Embassy website on the 7th of February or the 10th of February 2025, and it has not changed. I've now interviewed objectively white South Africans who are Afrikaners, white South Africans who are English speakers, Indian South Africans who've come here, colored South Africans who've come here, and even black South Africans, a small number of them who've come under this refugee program. The truth of the matter is there's a lack of objectivity across the board, social media and in mainstream media. Recently, Madeline Rowley, a journalist for the Free Press, wrote an article in which she interviewed 10 South Africans who've had very bad experiences with the refugee case officers. Now, the crux of the story isn't that South Africans have been mistreated, but that's the narrative that's being run with. That's the title because it's sexy, and that's how social media commentators, including rich, privileged black South Africans who boast about their large property estates and make fun of these people who are suffering. Well, let's put the objectivity back into the story. My experience with now over 800 refugees, and that number climbing on a daily basis, who've contacted me over the 2,000 plus who've come to America, is that the vast majority have received the care and the assistance that they were allowed, what they're entitled to. I also see that shameful people on social media claim that people promised them something. No one promised anyone anything. There is no one out there that's ever said that you're going to get a cakewalk, that life is going to be easy. That has never been the case. Show me a content creator. Show me a politician who promised the world. I'm not aware of any. It certainly wasn't me. I told people from the very outset that if you become a refugee, it's not an easy road to hoe. You're starting over from the bottom. I've always said that. That's always been the case. I've said from the outset that this program will break families up. Some people want to come, others won't. And we proved that last year with a vindictive sister who cost her brother a job because she told his employer that he was in the refugee program when he wasn't. He simply expressed an interest. I don't even know if that person even come to America, but lost his employment last year because of an evil shrew of a sister. That's what this program will do to people, because there are spiteful, hateful, jealous turds all over the world, including the media. Now let's get back to the story at hand, and then the one I want to tell you about. The story at hand, of course, is Madeline Rowley's story about the refugee situation. She talked to 10 refugees out of 2,000, and they all had problems. Fair enough. Fair enough. And their problems are serious, and their problems are not self-generated. They're generated by a lack of support provided by people whom we, the taxpayer, pay billions of dollars every year to. Organizations that have CEOs that make $700,000 a year in salary while letting refugees suffer in hovels and cockroach-infested apartments. Yeah, $400,000 to $700,000 a year in CEO salary, and this is what they allow to happen under the lack of oversight. And that's the real story here. The story that Madeline Rowley was getting at is a lack of oversight. Now, that's been lost on people because the label South Africans applied to this. But as I discovered in my investigative journalism, traveling to Rochester, New York, this situation occurs not just to South African refugees, but to refugees in general. When an Afghan refugee told me that he lost 2 months of benefits for food stamps while stuck in a hotel because his case officer told him to go find the Department of Health and Human Services, which he didn't know what that was, DHHS. He has no idea what that is, barely speaks English. In the dead of winter, stuck in a hotel, no food, no cash assistance. The case officer disappeared, came back a week later. That shows you, that one case, and there are others I've uncovered, that it's not simply South Africans who are being neglected by these agencies. Now, to be fair, that agency, Church World Service, has done a bang-up job with its case officer in Tampa, Florida for refugees down there, also in Dallas, Texas. But who's watching this program? Who's overseeing it? That's the real question here. Who's responsible for making sure that these people are being treated fairly? Is the U.S. government doing its job? Are these agencies doing their job with oversight? I don't know. And that brings me to the latest story. A refugee arrived in the United States recently. A refugee who's been a long-time viewer of this program. That refugee, who was a single person, was put into an apartment straight away and told to sign a lease after traveling for a couple of days and being exhausted and barely conscious. The person refused to sign a lease. That refugee woke up hours later, disoriented, confused, and nauseated. Went outside and got one of the maintenance facility manager or something like that or somebody to look, and the heating system was defective. That refugee could have died of carbon monoxide poisoning, was taken to the hospital with carbon monoxide poisoning. The case officer then came later on and tried to browbeat that refugee into signing a lease for a place where that refugee nearly died hours prior. When they go to the agency, which I won't mention yet, I've given them a call and given them a chance to respond. If they do, then we'll give them a chance to respond. But in the meantime, I'm going to hold off reporting on them, rather not to inflame the situation, because I'm not looking to embarrass agencies. I'm looking for solutions. And you won't get a solution by pissing in someone's cornflakes. So I'll give them an opportunity to respond. When they go to the agency in this location, the case officer tells a completely different story and promises this, that, and the other. But this case officer has told the refugee that it's their responsibility to get their social security number. It's their responsibility to go to food banks to find food. It's their responsibility to do this, that, and the other. The case officer is collecting a paycheck and doing nothing. Now, I'll mention the name because millions of people have this name, so you'll never know who it is. But Mohammed is treating the South African in this fashion, not delivering services. That is unacceptable. A refugee came here and nearly died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, I know that this story will be stolen by fake media sites in South Africa and blown up into something that it isn't. Again, it's not about South Africans, but racist bigots in South Africa will turn this into a South African story. But that's not the story here, folks. The story here, as Madeline Rowley is onto, and I've been onto, and Shelley Hepburn, to our credit, has been onto for some time, for the past several months, is that the agencies that we trust the government as taxpayers to fund to provide basic services for refugees arriving in this country are not delivering those services. So therefore, someone's committing fraud. Where's the oversight? Who's watching this program? And why isn't it happening? And before anyone starts saying Trump, this abuse goes back years and years. The Afghan gentleman arrived here before Trump was president. So he was neglected before Trump was even president. All right? So this is a systemic problem that is not getting attention. Doge wanted to root out corruption and fraud in the U.S. government. Well, here's a good place to start. People worried about layering centers in Minneapolis, billions of dollars. How about the treatment of people whom we've offered succor and refuge to, who have fled from religious, sexual, racial, political persecution to come to this country? We offer them a safe haven and then put them into an apartment with a defective heating system that nearly kills them the first night here. There's something seriously wrong with that. Somebody is not doing oversight, and it's time for this to change. Unfortunately, the views on this platform are much smaller now than they were several months ago, for whatever reason. Maybe I'm not tickling the algorithm properly. Maybe there really is such a thing as shadow banning. I don't know. But someone with reach at the Free Press, at CBS, in a media outlet that actually gives two shits, should look into this story and talk to the people that know what's going on. What say you, world? This is not acceptable. If we're going to accept refugees and we have a law that provides basic services, they should get basic services. And these people that behave in this fashion should not be collecting a paycheck, mistreating people, whether they're Congolese, Kyrgyz, Chinese, Uyghurs, Burmese, or South Africans. Enough is enough.